Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The important news and editorial that will be relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 24th of March, the first important news. That is India push for semiconductor. This is from the text and context page of the Hindu. Second, GST Appellate Tribunal may be headed by a former Chief Justice. This is what the central government has notified when it comes to the part of the committee that will comprise the GST Appellate Tribunal. Third, India rejects Johnson & Johnson attempts to extend the patent on TB drug. Basically, evergreening की जो concept है उसको समझेंगे. And the second last is India's roadmap to eliminate TB by 2025. This is from the explained page of Indian Express. And the last is an editorial, a climate change survival guide to enact. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further ado, let's get started. And if you're new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. And those of you who are looking forward for UPSC CSC prelims this year, CSAT is a big deal. Now, many a times we've seen that the students were unable to qualify CSAT paper, which is an optional paper, but it is becoming tougher. But do not worry, we at Apti Plus is providing you 5 high quality tests based on latest approach and the difficulty level of the examination. And with this test, you will be also provided with the detailed solution of the subject, right? So the part of the explanation will be made by the subject expert to ensure the authentic content. So if you're someone who's lagging on the CSAT, and even if you have a good CSAT command also, practice is very important. In a video description में link दिए हुए, do check it out and register yourself to excel in CSC 2023. Now, starting with the first news, that is India's push for semiconductor, something important for General Studies paper 2 under the subtopic, that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from its design and implementations. So what has happened that recently, basically this is not recent news, but although in a recent trend we have seen that India is looking forward for self-reliance, and boosting up of the sectors like electronic was pivotal for the government of India. And in this regard, government has come up with PLI scheme, the production link incentive scheme, and categorically government has invested or disbursed the amount of 1,645 crore rupees for promotions of electronic manufacturing. So this is the incentives that government is providing via PLI scheme, which is known as production link incentive scheme. Apart from the sector, there are a lot many sectors, like close to 10 identified sector there, more than 10 has also been included. So government ने specifically focus की है PLI के through in sectors को improve करने की. Now PLI schemes are the cornerstones of government for pushing the accomplishment and the visions of Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? So if you see the incentive part which is given under the PLI scheme, these are the data, like 4 to 6% of incremental sales में उनको incentive मिलेगी. Target segment is mobile phone, specified electronic components. Eligibility subject to threshold of the incremental investment and the sale of the manufactured goods. And tenure for the scheme is 5 years, subsequent based on the particular financial year, right? So this is the initial one to give you a hand-on experience about the PLI scheme. Now, one important point to understand that why government is encouraging the semiconductor manufacturing in India. The PLI scheme, which is invested in semiconductors. Apart from this, there are a lot many other sector which is there in the government priorities. But like a semiconductor fabrications unit की बात करें, we call it fab, right? So what happens actually? So fabs to turn a raw elements such as silicon into an integrated circuit. जो silicon है, वो integrated circuit में use होती है, and they are fit to be the part of periodically all electronic hardware in the world, right? So silicon is something which is significant here, and fabs are highly capital intensive undertaking costing $1 billion for the large facilities. Now, if you see the report which was there by the Semiconductor Industry Association, it has categorically noted that China pulled ahead of Taiwan in last year in terms of global share and the sale of fabs. What does fab? Fab is a semiconductor fabrications unit. Now, for this, overtaking Taiwan in terms of the production, because Taiwan is a country which has a high productions of semiconductors. Now, China has overtaken the Taiwan. Now, this has become a concern not only for India but for many other countries. Even US has passed CHIP Act last year, which provided for $280 billion of subsidies, investment and manufacturing in their fabrications or in the part of the promotions of semiconductors in United States. Now, this has also combined with the restrictions of the Chinese semiconductor industries in the country. So, we are more looking forward for Indianizations of the semiconductor sector and less dependent on the part of import from China, right? So, this is the main reason that government is focusing upon. Now, what are fabs open in India? Are fabs opening in India? So, according to the Ministry of Electronic Information Technology, the first semiconductor manufacturing fabrications unit would be announced in coming week. Government is planning. There's complete roadmap, but the execution part has not yet been decided. The Government Invest India Agency estimate that the electronic manufacturing has a total worth of 300 billion for the financial year 2025 and 26. Now, these facilities will have a final product that will be assembled with the semiconductor fabrication unit or fab, making the cheapest chipsets at display a crucial part of manufacturing processes for many electronic, right? Now, क्या advantages होगी इस तरह के initiative से इंडिया को, specifically semiconductors की अगर बात करें, as a large part of semiconductor manufacturing involving design and intellectual labor, India poses a large portion of semiconductor design engineers globally at India either or at Indian origin, right? So many companies are operating across the globe, which is of Indian origin also. And even it is an advantage as China is losing out control of the face sanctions and aging population. So India has an edge in this regard. Now, enabling program is again important, and how this can be done. This can be done by using opening on displaying of the part where semiconductor fabrications unit is a strategic to economic goal. And even अगर इंडिया के इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंसेंटिव्स प्रोग्राम्स की बात करें, दैट इज अलाइंड विद सेमीकंडक्टर फैब्रिकेशंस यूनिट आर बीइंग प्रायोरिटाइज्ड, राइट? द गवर्नमेंट अपीयर्स to be developing as a part of ecosystem where the promise of sustainable growth and fiscal feasibility is a concern, and even the priority has been given to it. Now, the second important news, GST Appellate Tribunal may be headed by the former Supreme Court judges, something relevant for General Studies Paper 3, that is Indian Economy and Issues Related to Planning, Mobilization, Resource Growth and Development. And this particular news is also important for General Studies Paper 2, where government policies and intervention are concerned. So, as we have come across the news that the 49th GST Council की meeting recent में हुई थी, which has recommended the long pending constitutions of the GST Appellate Tribunal in the country with certain modification. Very, very important news. You can get a direct question in the prelims examination this year. So you can expect a question, and if not, there can be a question in the mains also, right? So the GUM, that is a group of ministers on GST, was set up in July last year, which was headed by the chairman of Haryana Deputy Chief Minister. Now, what is GST Appellate Tribunal? To give you a premise idea of the GST Appellate Tribunal, it will be a quasi-judicial body proposed to establish and resolve the dispute related to GST in India. जो भी GST से related taxations के problems हैं, even adjudicating part will be done by the appellate authorities. Now, the GST Appellate Tribunal is a form of the second appeal that will be there under the GST laws. The first common forum for dispute providing resolutions to both the center as well as to the state government, right? So, between the center and the state, if there's a dispute, the resolution can be provided with the GST Appellate Tribunal. Now, as per the Code of Civil Procedures, that is CCP 908, and the GST Appellate Tribunal hold the power of the court and deemed to be functioning as a civil court and not the criminal court, because the part is involved in the financial issues, which is mostly dealt in the civil court. Now, composition of tribunal की अगर बात करें, as I have told you at the beginning, that this will be headed by the former Supreme Court judges, right? And even the former Chief Justice of High Court. This is the allowed eligibility criteria that may permit for the resolutions of the dispute involving the part of the compensation that can be like not more than 50 lakh rupees for a single member bench. So हर एक bench के पास 50 lakh से ऊपर penalty लगाने की permissions नहीं होगी. Now, amendment to the GST laws will enable the tribunal constitution and expect that is introduced in the Lok Sabha. Now, bench of the tribunal, as we know that the headed bench or the head bench will be the principal bench will be there in Delhi, and several agile benches will be operating across the state with the state capital. This will be again the part of the establishment will be done by the government. The tax experts say that the setting up of appellate tribunal will lead to जो भी pylon cases हैं legal matters हैं उनकी solutions जल्द से जल्द पहुंच जाएगी. Advantages of the tribunal: the goods and services tax appellate tribunal is expected to resolve the matter faster. As I've told you, the part of the backlog which is there, जितने भी backlog cases हैं which will be resolved with the help of the appellate tribunal, and the establishment of the tribunal is expected to give the relief to the businessmen. And even the long waiting, quick, efficient processes will be resolved to the GST dispute. So whatever dispute, either it is coming from companies to companies or either from the state government to central government, the tribunal will have a power to get into the matter and get a resolution done. Now, moving to the other news, that is India reject Johnson & Johnson attempt to extend the patent on the TB drug, something important for General Studies paper 2, under the subtopic that is issues related to development and management of health. So recently the patent office, Indian Patent Office, has rejected the pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson's attempt to extend the monopoly of TB drug, that is Pediquinine, beyond the part of the expiry which is there for the patent. So Johnson & Johnson is a company from United States. It has an origin in US. Now Johnson & Johnson has currently a monopoly, that primary patent for the Pediquinine, that is a drug used for the part of tuberculosis, which was expiring in July 2023. After this, the patent will not be allowed to them. Now there's section 3D of the Patent Act, which states that the salt from the derivation known as substance are not patentable. तो कुछ भी derivatives अगर use करने पे जो patent rights है वो नहीं मिलती है. There is something that is exclusive has to be done. But what this company is doing, they are making some tweak in the salt and getting the evergreening on the part of the productions. Now about the Pediquinine. So this is something formally approved by US Food and Drug Administration that is used for the combination of therapies, specifically for the multi-drug resistance. And currently the tablets are priced at $400 per 6 months, $400 per 6 months for the treatment courses. Now merits of the decision, the government of India, that decision was taken by the patent office. It will definitely pave the way for entering the generic producer in the market for the tuberculosis drugs, that is like 80% cheaper to that what actually the previous drugs cost. जो Johnson & Johnson मैन्युफैक्चर करती है उनसे 80% reductions या प्राइस कम में मिल सकती है generic drugs, right? And the Pediquinine has become the backbone for the drug resistance regime since it is dominating the market. Now, evergreening attempt, which was made by the Johnson & Johnson in 2007, where a little changes were there, some tweaking were there in the salt, and this has created a revenue for them, and there were multiple applications for the patent extension. Now, when they filed for evergreening patent on a salt called fumarate salt, this is again important for prelims examination. They can directly ask you about the salt name. So this was used in the part of the productions of the medicine, and there were little changes that was done by the company to get the evergreening and the part of the attempt to get the license of the patent for further years. Now, access to drugs की अगर बात करें, the latest available estimate is that in 2019, the 55,000 patients had developed a multi-drug resistance due to the part of the uses of access to Pediquinine, and even like close to 10,000 of the patients' drugs have been added. Right? So the government is looking that a generic drug should penetrate the market, and the dominance of any single drug should be vanished and should be removed. Now, what we have discussed, there's a sum up to this. India has rejected the part of the patent currently, the drug costing $400 for 6 months. And after July, the generic productions like Lupin and Macleods will be there for the manufacturers. And these are the other details that you can read out. Now, moving to the other news that is related to tuberculosis. We are celebrating World Tuberculosis Day for today. India's roadmap to eliminate TB by 2025, something important for General Studies paper 2, under the subtopic that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. Now, in 2018, the Prime Minister of India has envisioned for ending the tuberculosis by 2025, and even this target is there in the SDG goal that the world need to eliminate TB by 2030. But India has made an advancement, and 5 years before, we're looking forward to complete the target or chase the target. Now, India set the target of elimination of tuberculosis by 2025, 5 years ahead of the global targets. Now, TB की cases की अगर बात करें इंडिया में, definitely India is the world largest contributor of tuberculosis cases. In the recent time, we have seen the number is decreasing, but again, we are still number 1 in terms of the total TB cases that is reported, right? So 21.3 lakh cases has been detected in 2021, and this is compared to 18.5 lakh cases in 2020, right? So this you can see the number has already decreased. Comparatively, number बढ़े हैं, but that is not that high. Now, according to the TB Global Report, India accounts for 28% of the TB cases, and the new cases are detected reduced 18% compared to the part of the numbers that were reported earlier. And the incidence of drug resistance is down to 20% from the period of 1.4 lakh cases in 2015 to 1.1 lakh in 2021. Now, if you see the number of the cases that is reported, India is the world largest patients of tuberculosis with 27% of the total population, followed by China, then Indonesia, Philippines, Pakistan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, and South Africa, and rest country account for 33%. If you want to read more details, you can just specify and take the screenshot to give a revision on this particular slide. Now, TB elimination target, although Government of India ने काफी important schemes भी launch किए हैं, TB मुक्त भारत is among one of them, like TB मुक्त भारत. So there are a lot of other schemes that is working out, but to eliminate the part of tuberculosis and ensure sustainable development, India will be achieving a target by 2025. The National Strategic Plan for 2017-25 is set, reported more than 44 new TB cases and 64 of the total with the lack of population by 2025. And this is a bigger target that India will be achieving with 77 cases per lakh by 2023. The goal is aligned with the part of the World Health Organization's की जो target है NTB strategy to call for 80% reductions in the new cases, 90% reductions in the mortality, and 0% catastrophe by 2030. Now, some measures and initiative by Government of India. As I've told you, TB Mukt Bharat is among one of them. Now, the government has already set a target for achieving the SDG goal. जो SDG के goal है by 2025. The actual target is 2030, right? And even Nikshkai portal was there. That was there for the patients to report and track the part of TB cases. At present, 4,760 molecular diagnostic labs are available across the country and even at the district level also. And in line of that, 79 line-proof assay laboratories are also developed, and 96 liquid testing laboratories are developed to part of the diagnostic where multi-extreme drugs TB resistance will be taken care of. Now, status of the treatment protocols, how does it follows? We have a drug called badiquili, and the delamanite is the drugs which is for the treatment for TB, include the government basket of drug which is there for the TB patients. The oral drugs is replaced with the injectable kanamycin, which is associated with the serious side effect of kidney problems and deafness. So doctor do not recommend it to take this injections. And the new drug has been included in the national list of essential medicines. ये ऐसे medicines होती हैं जो essentials होती हैं और affordable price में इनको मुहैया कराना mandatory होता है. Even the government provide to regulate the market prices as well. A new version of drug will also is underway. The government will be coming up with a new vaccine called Immunovac that was initially developed to prevent the leprosy, will be working on TB also. So this was the evidence which was said that the Microbacterium indicus prenide. This is specifically important for prelims examination. This will help. This is as a pathogen which also act for the TB bacteria, which is actually working specifically for leprosy, but this is also working for the TB bacteria. Now moving to the editorial of the day, a climate change survival guide to act on, something relevant for general studies paper 3, that is the conservation, environmental pollutions, degradations, and EIA. So what we'll be discussing under this editorial. So first is the theme, that is IPCC report and climate change. Some important thing that we'll discuss is some takeaway. कुछ important takes away जो reports की हैं उसको sections में समझने की कोशिश करेंगे. Need for climate adaptations, sustainable technologies, and the way forward. Now, recently you have come across the report by the IPCC, और IPCC ने अपनी recent report release की थी, that is AR6. What is AR6 report? This is assessment report which is published by the IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And they have some astonishing fact to report with regards to the climate change and sustainability of the environment. Now, the United Nations Secretary General has called this report as a survival guide for the humanity, and the report can save our collective response in a critical decade, which makes or break for the humanity, likely to last for the IPCC report the previous years. Now, some takeaway with this report, which is going to be relevant for you. The first, it called for human activity. See, whatever detrimental is done to environment, अगर environment की repercussions की बात करें, detrimental health की बात करें, the human activity is the sole reason for it, right? So human activity is unequivocal, divided the global temperature rise, which is raised up to 1.1 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial level. तो काफी ज़्यादा temperature बढ़ी है because of the human activity, because of the industrialization. I'm not categorically speaking in terms of industrialization, which is more of a human activity only. Whereas the rate of emissions has slowed in the past decade, humanity is estimated to be 2.8 degrees Celsius at a trajectory by 2100, which will be achieving down the line in coming years. Now, carbon budget की बात की गई है. The amount of carbon that one can accumulate and emit has also reached the key limit, and the world carbon budget has lowered to 1.5 degrees Celsius than 2 degrees Celsius target. The IPCC report has pointed out that the humanity has already consumed 4/5 of the total carbon budget which was there by 2019 only. We have already exhausted the limit, right? With economies developing or consuming the maximum से. जो developed economies हैं उनकी consumptions comparatively higher compared to the developing economies. Now, if you see CO2 emissions, अगर carbon emissions की बात करें, the report notes that the CO2 emissions over the lifetime has existed in the fossil fuel infrastructure without additional, which has already existed in the carbon budget for 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, there's a need for climate adaptation. You can count this as the recommendations that is given by the IPCC. IPCC के recommendations के तौर पे भी आप इसे समझ सकते हैं that the sixth assessment report call for reorganizations of the great risk at the lower temperature and necessity for early climate adaptations. The report highlight the adaptation itself and if it implies ये जो damage और losses हैं उन्हें हमें compensate करने की जरूरत है. Now, one thing that is important here, I wanted to highlight, that is COP27 में जो recent loss and damage fund बनी है, right? L&D, loss and damage fund, that is again very important in this context. It reported that the level of warming climate change could lead to the cascading risk of food insecurity and migrations with intensity challenging its manageable part. The report also developed the model to integrate both adaptations and mitigation measures for sustainable development for all. Now, sustainable technologies के use से भी बहुत हद तक जो pollution है उनको control की जा सकती है. As per the sixth assessment report, it said that the plethora of technology that can be used, such as solar energy and electric energy. So these do not emit pollutions, and even it help in reductions of the emissions. The report categorically noted that this will co-benefit the climate actions for the air quality, and the cost-benefit analysis suggests that the air quality and health benefit of mitigating outweighs cost. Prioritizing and addressing the equity of social justice as transitions to the process and shown to be the key to climate resilience development. If you see the way forward in this context, the climate resilient development pathway is a journey and destination is net zero emissions at global level. And what we need to do, we need to have high upfront investment in clean infrastructure. That is imperative, like the investment in the green energy, clean energy, although India has said that they will be achieving most of its target by 2030. And if you see the net zero emissions target, which India has said is for 2070. The IPCC report is a landmark in this context, which is providing a blueprint which represents sobering account presenting futures damages to ecosystem and most vulnerable among us. So if a precise precaution is given by IPCC, now it's time for the government, time for effort at global level, which will call for a sustainability of the environment. Now moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is D. For second question, the correct option is B. Today's MCQ for practice. PM Daksh program. Consider the following statement. It was launched by Ministry of Home Affairs. The National Action Plan for Skilling Marginalized Section for ST, OBC, EBC, DNTs, and the part of the social program will be there. You have to consider the statement which among the following is correct, right? You can eliminate this. This is something that is repeated. So which among the following is correct? Akash missile, it's a range of 25 kilometers that can simultaneously engage multiple targets in all weather conditions. It was inducted in 2014 to the Air Force and 2015 in Army. So do check it out for the correct option. Practicing a lot more question will give you an edge for the upcoming prelims examination. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. Thank you so much for watching this video.